excited about this new series. The purpose of this series, the purpose of this book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, is intended to help us connect or reconnect ourselves with our possibility and to move beyond the self-imposed limitations that may be keeping us from our greater success, our greater good, from keeping us from the kind of relationships we desire, keeping us from experiencing health in our bodies, keeping us from experiencing prosperity in our pocketbooks. And so there is, according to him, there are things that we are putting in our way that are keeping us from being the very best version of ourselves. How many of you buy that? Yes. Okay, all right, that's good. That's good. And here is what I love about that concept. What I love about the concept is if I am the one who is putting the barrier in my way, then I am also the one who can remove. There was an experiment done by some marine biologists. And in this experiment, they had some fish in this fish tank, and they put a shark in the fish tank with the fish. And the shark, how many of you expect a shark to shark? Yeah, so they put the shark in the fish tank, and just like we can expect, the shark sharked. And the shark began to attack the other fish that were in the tank. To the shark, they were just food. But then the marine biologists did something very peculiar. They put a transparent barrier between the shark and the other fish. And the shark, because of its nature, still attempted to get at the other fish. But this time, rather than being able to enjoy a delectable meal, the shark ran head on into this transparent barrier. Now, the shark, being attuned to its nature, tried time and time and time again to get after that food. But after about an hour and a half, the shark stopped trying. After about an hour of being unable to attain what the shark wanted, the shark gave up. And so this experiment went on for a couple weeks. And then the experimenters, the scientists, did something even more strange. After a while, the scientists took the transparent barrier out of the fish tank. And when they took the barrier out of the fish tank, the shark didn't shark, but rather the shark had become accustomed to what it thought it was not entitled to. And so even though all around it was delectable morsels just there for the taking, the shark was unable, because it had been reconditioned, the shark was unable to attain what it wanted. What if in that illustration you are both the marine biologist and the shark? What if in that illustration you are the one who is putting a barrier in your way, and you have allowed yourself to become reconditioned, so reconditioned in fact that though all around you swims the possibility of the very thing that you have been praying for, though it's all around you because the substance of God is all around you, though it's swimming all around you just waiting for you to eat, it's saying eat, 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 eat. But because you failed this time, and somebody talked about you in the 3rd grade and they told you would never amount to nothing, and because your first marriage didn't work, and because the business didn't get off the ground the way you wanted to, because you've experienced some failures, you stopped trying and you've convinced yourself that there is a barrier between your good and between where you are. But I'm here to tell you that there is nothing keeping you from your good but you. So the question that must be put before us, cuz, is, are you willing to make the big leap? Are you willing to jump? Are you willing to risk it all again? Are you willing to try at least one more time? And if that time doesn't work, try one more time. And if that time doesn't work, try one more time. And if that time doesn't work, try one more time. Because here is what I know about inertia. It takes more than one pull on the flywheel to get the inertia to break. See, if you have, like the shark, conditioned yourself to not having, if you've convinced yourself that there are no good men and you can't have love, then every time you pull on the flywheel, it feels like this just ain't gonna work. But I'm saying to you, if you will commit yourself to taking the risk, if you will commit yourself to the big leap, if you will ask and answer a few questions and just be willing to have, you can have it. Because there is no resistance against the made-up mind. And so Gay Hendricks presents a challenge, he presents an opportunity, he presents a perspective that says, even though we have been putting some self-imposed limitations in our way, we can overcome those. I like the quote by Benjamin Mays. He says, the tragedy in life is often not in our failure, but rather in our complacency. Not that we are doing too much, but rather we are doing too little, not in our living above our ability, but rather in living below our capabilities. Do you know anybody who's living below their capable level of accomplishment? Don't look at them if they're here. But in this text, he says we have to ask ourselves a few questions. I need you to flow with me because we're time sensitive. He says we have to ask ourselves a few questions. If you don't have this book, you can get this book in the bookstore. He says there are just 4 questions he suggests that we have to ask and answer for ourselves. He said the first question is, am I willing? Somebody say willing. Am I willing to increase the amount of time every day that I feel good inside? Am I willing? See, some folk ain't even willing. And where there is no will, there is no way. So just ask yourself and answer for yourself, am I willing to increase the amount of time every day that I feel good? If you will say yes to being willing to increase the amount of time every day that you feel good, then the will or the executive faculty within you will begin to search for a way in order to make a way out of no way. Are you with me? The second question he said we must ask and answer for ourselves is, am I willing to increase the amount of time that my whole life goes well? See, I don't know about you, but there was a stage in my development where when things were going too good, that was just too good. Like I could only stand it to be so good. Maybe it works for you this way. You're waiting for the other. Anybody know about the other shoe falling? Okay, maybe you're not the person who waits for the other shoe to fall. Maybe you're the person who saves up for a And when you save for a rainy day, whatever it is you saving, then invariably it must rain because you have brought your umbrella to the sun beach. All right, the sun beach. What is the sun beach? Did he just say sun beach? What is a sun beach? The Lord must be working. He's creating new words. He said the third question we must ask ourselves is, am I willing to feel good and to have my life go well all the time? Now, let me add something. Let me add something. And he offers this, and I agree with this. If as you hear these questions, if there emerges in you some sort of resistance, just understand that that resistance is natural. Right? As you just ponder the question of whether or not you are willing to have your life work for you the way it's supposed to work, just pondering the question probably makes some of us feel uneasy. It probably makes some of us think, that's not even possible. And so it's okay if you feel resistance. As a matter of fact, it's natural to feel resistance when your paradigm is being confronted. It's natural to feel some resistance when you go through what we call the process of chemicalization. It's natural to feel some resistance whenever there is structural tension happening in us, when we see a possibility and we compare that possibility to our current reality. It's natural to feel uneasy. Sometimes we don't do it in thought, we do it when we get around certain people. Sometimes we don't do it when we get around certain people, we do it when we look at certain profiles. How can their life be going this well on Instagram? How can they be? I went to school with them. How can they be doing this good and I'm doing this bad? Sometimes you got to know when people just faking the funk. So he says we must ask and answer these questions for ourselves. And listen, I think the key is that we must be willing. Say willing. He said the last and final question that we have to ask ourselves is, am I willing to take the big leap to my ultimate level of success in love, money, and creative contribution? And so if I am willing to take the big leap, then what we find is that there are some tools available to us to help us begin to shift the way we think and feel, because if you can change the way you think and feel, you can change your circumstances. How many of you know that you are not limited to the circumstances you are in right now? As a matter of fact, you are a creator in the experience you're having. You are never powerless, Dorothy. You have everything you need in order to experience something new right here, right now. But the key is, will I take the leap from my present level to my next level? And can I let you in on a little secret? You can't do it from where you are right now. It goes like this. You can't solve the problem on the same level of consciousness that created it. You can't transform the body temple with the same behaviors and patterns that produce the experience you're having right now. You can't resurrect the relationship if you insist on having two boyfriends. No, it's like grown folks. I want to be 1,000. Is it okay? Y'all sound like it's okay. Let me ask this. Do you want to be better? Yes. Then pay attention. Because you cannot fix it on the same level of awareness. You cannot fix it on the same level of consciousness that produced it. And so what he suggests in his textbook is that you cannot solve it, you have to dissolve it. And when you experience a change in mind, the dissolution is automatic. Oh my goodness, I just gave you something real good right there. Here, let me say it to you this way. See, you don't have to worry about hanging with people who don't intend you any good if you will begin to recondition how you feel about yourself. They will naturally. See, water always seeks its own level. And so to the degree that I change my mind, my life, world, and affairs must change as well. Are you with me? Are you preparing to make the big leap? Because he suggests that we all have an upper limit problem. He suggests that we see the upper limit problem show up, Reverend Norton, for most people who win the lottery. He said 60%, he's recording some research, he said 60% of people who win the lottery end up broke in 2 years. Why? Because they don't have a mindset for their new success. See, let me explain something to you. If you take a cup and you put it under a faucet, the amount of water you leave with will always be equal to the capacity of your container. And even if somebody pours into you more than you are able to receive, if you don't know how to manage it, you will sabotage yourself until you have less than what you had before. And so some of us get uncomfortable when it starts to get too good. It starts to shift us. It starts to make us feel nervous. It starts to make us uneasy. But if you can get yourself to the place, you can experience it. So we're gonna have to let this be a primer, because I don't want to run through my points. So this is the primer. Say this lesson is the primer. This is the primer. So one of the first things that he talks about is that in order to make the big leap, we have to come to understand our unconscious tendency to trip our upper limit switch. So he says each of us is like a thermostat. And each of us, when we're working with our thermostat, has a particular setting. Now, I imagine that you in your home probably have a setting that's different than mine. Just for your winter months, what do you like to keep your thermostat set at? Just go ahead and say it. It's okay. I'm going to hear you. 70, 65, 80, 72, 73, 80, 66, 72, 75, 81. See, it's different for all of us, right? All of us have a different setting at which we are comfortable. All of us have a different setting at which we are comfortable. Now, much like the thermostat, the tripping or the activation of your thermostat is not controlled by what the thermostat is doing. It's controlled by what the environment is doing. So you could be cooking in your kitchen, and the heat from the oven could convince the thermostat that it's warm enough to stop pushing out hot air. Yes? Now, there is no real change in the condition in terms of what's happening around you, but there is a false sense of increased temperature that triggers the thermostat. Yes? For you and I. But it's not really, because once you turn the oven off, once you turn the heat down, then the thermostat must adjust because the environment will adjust. Now, here's the thing. You may not be able to control the environment, but you can control what's happening in you. And so what this opportunity is intended to do is to give us a greater degree of control of what's happening in us. Because the environment will only do what the environment does. Are you with me? So then, for those of us who recognize that we cannot correct the issue on the same level of consciousness or with the same level of awareness that we created it, I want you to be open and receptive to how you begin to think and feel differently. I want you to, through this series, be open and receptive to no longer saying some things that you were saying before today. Because the way you think and feel and what you say and how we behave influences the environment. Is it all right? For some of us, I want to challenge you to adjust your upper limit switch. Because for some of us, we don't mind giving, but we have a hard time receiving. Are you with me? Some of us just in our profession, some of my ministers and teachers, some of my social workers, we spend so much time pouring out that when somebody's trying to give to us, we're like, no, that's okay, I don't need it. When somebody wants to pray for us, we're like, no, that's okay, you don't have to pray for me. So there needs to be some adjustment on our upper level switch. Are you with me? I'm going to close with this. In order to do something you've never done, you have to become someone you've never been. And it requires then of you and I this acceptance that we can take radical action in our life, world, and affairs. There is no doubt in my mind that everyone in this room who hears me and everyone watching by line who is hearing me has the innate capacity to transform their life. There is no doubt in my mind. You have what you need in order to change your life and eliminate those things that do not work for you, because life is supposed to work for you. See, life is supposed to give you what you call for. Life is supposed to bless you and not be a burden to you. But there is a skill, Reverend Boy, to living. The African antelope, it's African impala is an antelope. And the African impala can jump heights of 10 feet high, no problem. If you watch it on the Discovery Channel, you can see if you see an impala or an antelope being chased by a cheetah, you might see that antelope jump 30 feet distance without breaking a sweat. But if you go to Brookfield Zoo right now, you can see an antelope behind a fence that is 3 feet high. Because the antelope won't jump unless it can see where it'll land. My guess is that when it comes to the big leap, some of us are going to be reluctant to jump unless we can see where we can land. But I want to challenge you to be willing to leap by faith. Be willing to jump by faith. Be willing to work by faith. Because I believe it says that we walk by faith and not by. I believe it says faith without works is. So if you will make the leap, I guarantee you, God will meet you on the landing. God bless you.